Hi there. Today I was thinking about if I had a do-over in my 20s for how to prepare my body for perimenopause, what would I do? And what would I share with my daughter for her to do? So I've put together a little bit of a hit list that I think will be really beneficial for her, and it might be something worth you sharing with your family members as well. So what I would do, say from the age of 18, I would start supplementing with creatine. So creatine is really beneficial for post-exercise recovery, for muscle gain and development. It's great for your bone density, and it's really neuroprotective apparently as well. So Dr. Daniel Amen, as well as a lot of other doctors talk about that. So 3 milligrams of creatine per day would be a really easy thing to add into your supplement stack. I'd then get her to lift 3 times a week, heavy weights in the gym. Upper body, push-pull, lower body, push-pull. Make sure she's strong and has a strong musculature, basically, because the amount of muscle mass that you have helps your body to regulate blood sugar. So that's going to reduce the risk of diabetes in the future. So that would have helped me be at a lower risk of being pre-diabetic as I am now at the age of 52, nearly 53. I would tell her to make sure she's getting at least 2 grams of protein for every kilogram of her desired weight. 2 grams of protein. So if I wanted to weigh 65 kilos, then my desired protein intake would need to be 130 grams per day, and you need to start at breakfast time. I would plan to have a protein breakfast, and I would plan proteins over carbs as much as possible. I would really learn about my menstrual cycle and actually know what estrogen, progesterone and testosterone do in my body. I would understand that in my 20s I will have the full component of testosterone, and by the time I reach my 50s and I'm menopausal, I'll be down to producing only a quarter of the testosterone that I used to have. So testosterone is responsible for your libido, but also for your motivation to do hard things. So I would make sure that I knew what estrogen did, progesterone and testosterone. I would start getting an annual blood test around the time of my birthday so that I didn't forget. And I would be monitoring my vitamins and my minerals. I'd be checking my blood glucose and my cholesterol as well. I would then be able to address any deficiencies in magnesium or vitamin D, anything that could come up over the years. And I'd make sure I keep a copy for myself so that I could compare each year. I would also want to experiment with a blood glucose monitor. So I learned very on in my life about what foods trigger my blood sugar spikes and what foods don't. Again, it's a way of managing my potential of insulin resistance in the future, and it will help me to avoid pre-diabetes potentially. I would make sure that I knew that a breastfeeding woman is at risk of losing up to 20% of her bone density while she's breastfeeding. That's a lot. To counteract that, you need 500 milligrams of calcium a day, according to Dr. Vonda Wright in an interview she did with Steven Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO. So I'd make sure I was getting enough calcium in my diet, whether it was via food or if I had to supplement, I would make sure I was doing that to maximize my bone density. I would, at the age of 28, go and have a bone density scan done. Dr. Vonda Wright, who's an orthopedic surgeon, says that for females at the age of 28, we have reached our peak bone density. So I would want to know what that is. If I have led a fairly active lifestyle, then it will hopefully be perfect. But if I've had a fairly sedentary lifestyle, it is possible that I'm already osteopenic, that I'm already losing some bone density. And in fact, she did say that she's seeing more teenagers and young adults coming in with osteopenia, because we're pretty much raising a more sedentary generation, and gaming, of course, has a lot to do with that as well. So it's really important that we maximize opportunities for kids to play, and I would want my daughter to know that her children need to go out and physically be active so they can maximize their bone density and production. I'd make sure to get enough sleep. I don't think I knew as a young woman at all how important sleep was. I always liked it, but I don't think I understood how very important it was for repair of our body, and also for our neuro pathways, for our brain health overall. I would, in my 20s, probably my late 20s, probably maybe even around 30, have a DEXA scan done. So I would get a body composition scan to have a look at how much fat I was carrying in relation to my muscle mass. By doing that, it would give me an opportunity to rectify my overweight before it became problematic, and prioritize maximizing my muscle mass. And we know, any of us who've had children know, that can be really hard when you have young children to get to the gym yourself, unless you've got a good babysitter, or unless they will look after kids at the gym. The gym might not always be a great option, but maybe you go for a run if you've got good knees and ankles. I mean, a lot of us, I've got a lot of friends who played netball in their youth, and they have knee and ankle issues now. So I would make sure that I knew how my muscle mass was tracking in relation to my body fat. When I reached 30, I would make sure that I really understood what the symptoms of perimenopause were. I would want to know that my ability to sleep well, to manage my body temperature, that my muscle mass and my bone density are all impacted by my body's ability to make estrogen. When it's not making estrogen in the ovaries anymore, our body increases our body fat in order to make a hormone, which is an estrogenic hormone called estrone, but it's an inferior hormone to estradiol, which is the preeminent estrogen that we want to have. I think that's important to know that. I'd also want to go and get a breast screen done. I had my first breast screen done a couple of months ago. I think as a younger woman, it's important to know what your breast density is like, especially if you've had breast cancer in the family. I think it would be worthwhile to know that, because in conjunction then with the history of any family cancers, you can then make yourself aware of what hormone replacement therapies are available to you that will still support your body through perimenopause and menopause, but may have a lower risk with regard to a cancer profile. So we know now that estrogen will feed cancer but doesn't cause cancer. So there's still a lot of information to be learnt to make people feel comfortable about taking hormone replacement therapies. I think they absolutely have a place in having good quality longevity and quality of life. I would want to know that sooner rather than at the last minute. And the bowel cancer screening kit, normally that we get sent here in Australia when we're 50, I would probably even try to do that at 45, but I certainly wouldn't wait until my second or my third post in the mail before I actually paid attention to it, because it's one way of eliminating a risk of a cancer that can be quite hard to detect. So those are the things that I would do if I was getting my body ready for perimenopause now. I hope that's been helpful.